Sunday. And if you just take a minute to think about that implication, that across the world, Christians are united on this day, that we're going to go to the table, commune with God and with each other. And we remember that in 1933, Sunnyside Presbyterian Church started this movement, thinking, what would it mean if we all got together and had communion on the same day? For some, it would be okay. But I think you have to take yourself out of just us gathered here or our local church or our one table and imagine what it means that we're gathered. And gathered to commune with one another, but to be defined by the table. Our lives are defined by the table. In a world where there is division everywhere, right? You look in the paper, most of our ills, most of our brokenness comes from division. The way in which we define ourselves over and against another. But for a moment, what we try to accomplish is unity. Unity for all people. Yes, I know we're thinking that as Christians, it's Christians who are coming to the table. Those who have already made a commitment to follow Christ. But for us as United Methodists, who have an open table, it means much, much more than that. Because as an open table, we say you don't have to already have made a commitment to Christ. Because Wesley, in his infinite wisdom, said, you know what? Communion can be the point at which somebody experiences Christ and begins to follow him. So that's why every time we come to the table, I offer the invitation that you do not have to be a member. You do not have to be baptized. You don't even have to be sure that you want to follow this dude, Jesus Christ. But if at that moment you feel a call, a stirring, that you want to come to the table and experience it, you're welcome. Now I know that for many of us, communion has become something we just do. Come on, admit it. And sometimes we even avoid it. Oh, the service is going to run too long. It's going to take too long. I'm not sure I want to do that. But if you, for a moment, ponder that restlessness in our hearts in which we think, I just wish I could be out of this world for a moment. I wish that my ordinary, everyday life could be transformed into something extraordinary. Do you ever have those moments? Driving in traffic? Sitting at your desk in your cubicle? Once again, waiting for your kids to come out of school? In the heat? But when the invitation is offered to come to the table, we have an opportunity to experience the extraordinary, to experience the love of God, to experience the presence of God here in our midst, in the everyday elements of bread and cup, in the everyday elements of trying to practice our faith. And we can be then defined by what we experience at the table. Now our gospel lesson that I just read from Matthew 10, 40 to 42 gives us a little bit of a glimpse of what that faith journey anointed light for us. And I'm going to read to you it again, but in from the Message. We are intimately linked in this harvest work. Anyone who accepts what you do accepts me, the one who sent you. Anyone who accepts what I do accepts my Father who sent me. Accepting a messenger of God is as good as being God's messenger. Accepting someone's help is as good as giving someone help. This is a large work I've called you into, but don't be overwhelmed by it. It's best to start small. Give a cool cup of water to someone who is thirsty. For instance, the smallest act of giving or receiving makes you a true apprentice. You won't lose out on a thing. This idea of when we go out into the world, when we go out and are interacting with other people, we have a chance to introduce them to Jesus. We have a chance to take what we experienced at the table, the very presence of God, and share that with someone. Think how transformational that can be. Think how transformational it can be for someone who's looking for grace, for hope, for peace. And here you are, someone who's been at the table on Sunday and is carrying that with you. And you have the ability to share it. But what reservations do we have? What reservations do we use to not share it? Call it out, friends. We're going to wake up now. What reservations do we have? Oh, so you're out spreading the love of God always in every interaction. Right on, friends. What? Being rejected. Don't know what to say.
Football's on.
Football's on. My favorite excuse. What else?
Fear of getting the flu.
Fear of
Getting the flu.
getting the flu. I'm processing that one. Sharing Christ, we might get the flu? Germs, okay.
Doing it wrong.
What?
Just doing it wrong.
Just doing it wrong. How do we share the Word of God? It's going to be wrong. What if I tell you that we have nothing to fear? That yes, we may be rejected. Just think about that reward. And it talks about reward in our gospel lesson, right? As we go about doing this, as we go out and we are emissaries for God and we offer a cup of cold water, there is a reward. But I often think, well, what kind of reward would that be? Because if you think about it, if we look out over our faith history, all of our mothers and fathers in the faith, who we will commune with at the table, when they shared their faith, when they followed Christ, how did that turn out? Huh? It turned out well? Well, many of them were persecuted. Right? Many of them were seen as outcasts. Right? So that may happen. But they did it anyway. That may happen. So what's the reward that we're hearing about in our gospel lesson? Strengthening your faith? The reward is that we, as we are practicing our faith, as we are engaged at the table, as we are welcoming, as we are sharing our faith with people in the workplace, we are experiencing the very presence of God. That's the reward. That in personal piety, in our devotions, and in experiencing God in worship, in offering the cup of cold water, in seeking social justice, in helping those who are on the margins, or experiencing the presence of God. And did you catch this line? Because I think sometimes we're good with experiencing God, and we're good with offering the cup of cold water. We're all about missions. We've got the crop walk going on. We just did Box City. We're going to host Family Promise, and we are living out our faith. But this is the line. Did you guys catch this line? It is accepting a messenger of God is as good as being God's messenger. Accepting someone's help is as good as giving someone help. Accepting help yourself. How many of us would rather choose to be on the end of giving versus on the end of receiving? There's that whole idea that if I get a gift, what do we instantly think about? How do I give one back? Right? But even in receiving the cup of cold water, we experience the presence of God. And so for me, sometimes when I go to the table, I'm not sure I want to be open to receiving the gift of God at the table. Because then that defines who I am and becomes the definition of what I do and who I am. So when we come to the table, sometimes we think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and take communion. I am going to take communion. Instead of, I'm going to receive communion. So when we come to the table, we receive Christ. We receive the presence of God. So I invite you, today when you come forward to receive the presence of God, open your life, open your ears, open your heart to receiving the cup of cold water that will nourish your soul today.